All right, welcome to Insight with Irv. If you've ever dealt with pressure before, I'm talking about that pressure that you feel it's holding you down. You have no idea where your next payday is going to come from. You have no idea how you're going to make ends meet. You have no idea how you're going to meet payroll. You have no idea what the heck is going to go on with your kids. You have no idea what the diagnosis on that medical exam is going to come back as. This episode is for you because regardless of where you're at in life, whether you are the CEO of a $100 million agency, or if you are the struggling single mom of three, going crazy with 3 jobs, all of us have pressures, both internal and external, that we have to deal with. So how do we actually deal with pressure? What types of pressures are there that we have to pay attention to? And how can we actually use pressure to get us to that next level and to actually push us forward and not paralyze us and hold us back? That's exactly what we're going to be covering in this episode today. So I listed a couple of pressures here today. We usually feel pressures with business. This is going to be hiring, firing, competition. How do we revamp our service? How do we revamp our product? Because maybe we have a competitor that's picking up market share faster than we thought. Maybe that one ad that was going crazy and we just kept running up the dollars. We just kept putting more money into it. Maybe it's not spitting back as much money as we thought. Maybe you burned through the marketplace. What about your product, the launch, the deadlines, the services, right? A client tells you, hey, I need this project done, or I need this maybe assignment done by this Friday. And you're maybe backlogged with a bunch of other clients that you haven't been able to service just yet. Like, dealing with that kind of pressure is serious, because if there's one thing that you want to protect in business, and these words are usually used differently, but I use them interchangeably because I think that they mean essentially one-on-one the same, especially in the digital age. People usually say brand, others say reputation. I see them as one-on-one the same, because your brand is essentially your reputation. If your brand gets trashed, there goes your reputation. If your reputation gets trashed, there goes your brand. So they essentially commingle, they're essentially on top of each other, and they're married with each other. And so you obviously want to protect the timeline, the timeline and the deadlines that you do business with your clients. So if you tell them, hey, we're going to have it done by Friday, best believe you get it done by Friday, but that creates a whole new pressure, because even though they're going to be happy when they receive the service or when they receive the product, you may feel burnt out. Happens all the time. The third part, or the third type of pressure that people deal with, is personal life. How do you deal with kids that just aren't listening to you? Like, I'm not necessarily there just yet, right? But I'm around people that are a lot older than me when they tell me, hey, like, my daughter is in this dating phase and I have no idea what to tell her. Like, I'm not there yet. Like, my daughter's only 3. Or, hey, my sons are, I don't want them to, be nobodies. I want them to go to school. I want them to start a business. I want them to go out and provide value to society, but my kids are using drugs. Like, Irv, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Those are real pressures. And those are pressures that people deal with every single day. And we also have leadership pressures. Whether you are in a corporate setting and you are a leader maybe in your 9 to 5 and you're climbing up the corporate ladder and you really want to establish a name for yourself, and you're getting handed what we call kind of like the dirty work, where you have to go out and you have to fire someone just so that you can prove to the higher up that you are a stern boss. Or maybe you're on the other side and maybe you're just somebody that's a pushover. Like, you're a great leader. They can come to you with their issues. You always have an ear for them to vent to, but you never really provide anything to them that's tangible that leads them into that next place, that gives them something to look forward to. If there's anything that you want to know about leadership, is using that pressure of leadership to widen up the vision, because it's going to allow people, or to allow more people to fit inside of your organization, because now we have more people that are going to work on a bigger vision. If your vision is this big, then it may only require you and maybe 2 other assistants. If your vision is this big right here, and it's so big that you're not going to be able to accomplish it in this lifetime or in the next lifetime, then you know that you have something that's not just going to excite you, but it's also going to excite other people for one common good. And that's to continue to work toward that vision. One of my favorite Bible verses is, wherever there's lack of vision, my people, perish, right? And so if you don't want to perish, if you don't want to meet your demise, you want to make sure that that vision, especially as a leader or someone who's maybe going under leadership, is something that's worth your time and is something that's worthwhile. But like anything else, we talk about pressures, we talk about leadership, we talk about guiding, we talk about moving forward, we talk about not making any mistakes, which is part of human nature, which is part of the human experience. What do we actually do, or what type of pressures are there, and what do we do about them? So there's really 3 types of pressures that we feel. I'll give them to you really quickly and then we'll break them down. The first type of pressure is the pressure that we put on ourselves. The second type of pressure is the pressure that we allow others to put on us. And then the third type of pressure is made up pressure that doesn't really exist. It's all right up here. And sometimes it feels like the pressure that you set up and you put on yourself, but there is a difference. I'll explain them. So the type of pressure that you put on yourself, this is a real pressure. It's a real thing. It's not a made up one. I'll give you an example. If I'm in a space right now where I want to lose 35 pounds, make it something super simple, something super tangible that a lot of people struggle with, or the reverse on that, I want to gain 35 pounds. I now place a pressure on me in a good way that's going to cause me to change my eating habits. I either have to eat more or I have to eat less. I now have to exercise. I can either start lifting more weights, or I can maybe dial the weights back a little bit and start doing a bit more cardio and maybe start mixing in my extracurricular activities. So instead of meeting the guys, for a couple drinks and having the meeting at the bar, I can maybe switch it up and go to a nice place like Fresh Kitchen, which is a nicer alternative, and you can still get the objective done, which is solving the problem of the business while we're having a meal versus while we're having a drink, fries, a burger or fries, and just a greasy steak, right? There's a time and a place for it, but when there's a goal, you want to have that healthy pressure set on it. And even the difficult conversations, maybe there's a difficult conversation that you need to have with an employee, or there's a difficult conversation that you need to have with a partner. And that difficult conversation is a pressure that you've not put on yourself. And you think to yourself, okay, later on today, when my work is done, at 4 p.m., as soon as I'm leaving the office, or at 4 p.m., when all of my other meetings are done, I'm going to have this difficult conversation with them about X, Y, Z. Or something that I like to do is I like to just eat the frog. And so I like to do the thing that I don't want to do the least, or that I want to do the least, that I just flat out, if I can put this off for another year, I could. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that first, because everything else in the rest of the day is going to be a heck of a lot easier than that thing that I just finished doing. And so when you have all the energy and focus and you feel like a fireball waking up in the morning, you may want to put that first versus maybe having been beat up the entire day. So that's something that you can play around with. Again, the second type of pressure that we have is the pressure that we allow others to make on us. Now, this is external pressure. It's still very real, and athletes deal with this a lot when the media is tearing them apart. Artists deal with this a lot when the media is tearing them apart, and even actors and actresses, people and public figures, right? Where they're saying, you're a nobody, you're trash, you're no good, you should get traded, they should bench you, whatever it is, that movie sucked. And so those pressures are real because you're still trying to provide value to your marketplace. They're just doing it at a higher scale, and they're just playing a completely different game. And so maybe if the external pressure for you, again, going back to the example of maybe you have a client that said, hey, I would like to have this project done in the next 2 weeks, and you know that you have 8 other projects, but you really want to make this client happy because you know that if you land this contract, if you land this deal, it's going to open up the doors for way more, what we can call like a bigger network, or maybe an introduction to a bigger player. Then obviously you want to prioritize them without letting your other customers and clients down. And so this is where thinking creative comes into play, and this is where this type of pressure is helpful to you, because now you can really see, does my time management suck? Okay, I should have maybe cleared out of these 8 clients, I should have cleared out at least 4 of them last week. So maybe my delegating needs a little bit of work. Maybe I don't have the best team. Maybe it's time to go out and find some better talent. Maybe for myself, maybe my skills aren't as sharp as I thought they were. Maybe it's time to go back out and learn a new skill set that's going to help me decrease the time of work that this takes and increase the amount of output that I have through the same input, or really through a more specified input. And I'm not going to get better outputs because that skill is sharper. It's like having a dull knife, trying to cut through something. You want to spend some time sharpening that knife. And then the third type of pressure, closing with this, is the pressure that doesn't exist. This is the pressure where you think people are saying something about you and they're not saying anything at all. This is the pressure where you think you have to do something and you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, or that's not actually going to serve you at a higher level. And I can tell you from experience and just from talking to entrepreneurs, the pressure that people feel the most is the pressure that doesn't even exist. People care far less about you than you actually think they care. You care about yourself way more than other people, believe me. And so this is a double-edged sword because this holds people back from posting more on social media, growing their brands. This holds people back from shutting down a business, starting a new idea. This holds people back from scaling the business that they have because they think that they're going to leave their old friends behind because they're going to hit maybe a new pillar of society that maybe their friends won't necessarily be welcome to, or their family won't be welcome to, or maybe their family won't accept them because now they've quote unquote changed. But I can tell you, those types of pressures are made up, and they're made up right up here. And so the way that we deal with pressure is by analyzing, okay, is this something that actually exists? Is this real? Can I do something to change this? We talked about that. Is it a habit that I can change? Is it a diet that I can change? Is there conversations that I need to have? Do I need to be more confrontational? Do I need to know when to kind of take some off the gas so that I don't burn out? Those are all different metrics that you need to watch out for. And obviously it's going to be different for everyone. So this is more of a self-diagnosis. And so if there's something that you can change it. If it's something that's out of your control, how do I deal with this even though it's out of my control? I can't change it. I can't do anything about it. So how do we now live with this new reality, and how do we make it fit inside of the bigger vision that we have? Because just because something is your reality, it doesn't necessarily make it the end all, and it doesn't necessarily crumble your vision as a whole. You just have to tweak. You just have to adjust. So if you found value in this podcast today, all that we ask is that you hit us with an awesome review and you share it with a friend, because we're trying to grow this podcast organically. Until then, everyone, again, my name is Irvin, and you have tuned in to the Insight with Irv podcast.